Hi everyone, just waiting for people to jump on. Welcome to our third Money Talks session, sponsored by Manningham Council. Today's session is about financial pressures and getting help. So my name is Rachel and I'm a health promotion officer at Women's Health East. I just want to start by acknowledging the Wurundjeri tribe of the Kulin Nation, who are the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which I am meeting on. I also acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the lands on which each of you are joining us from today. And I pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging, and to any First Nations people listening in today from around the country. I might go a bit slower because I'm just checking to see how many attendees we've got, and it's probably best if we maybe wait a couple of minutes. But I guess today I'm really glad we have two people with us. We've got Kylie, who is a family violence financial counselor at Anglicare, and Deborah, a managing lawyer at the Eastern Community Legal Center. And they'll be joining us today to answer some questions around managing financial pressures, getting the right help and support if you are experiencing financial difficulties, and we'll be talking about financial abuse as well. And so Kylie, Deb, and I will be jumping into a conversation in just a bit. But again, just for people that, might be experiencing some difficulties right now, if you are feeling like during the webinar that you do need a bit of support, please reach out to any of the support numbers that my colleague and that would have provided in the chat. Just acknowledging that some of the things we will be discussing may be quite challenging to hear. And so if you do need help, please reach out. So we will also be providing some information on how you can reach out to either Kylie or Deb or to Anglicare or Eastern Community Legal Center at the end of the webinar. And we will be sending this information in the follow-up email as well. And I guess the bottom line for today's webinar is that, many people are experiencing financial pressures. Many of us might have been in difficult financial situations before. For some of us that have been more impacted by the COVID-19 recession, maybe it's the first time that you are in this position. And at the end of the day, it's really important to reach out and get help and to know that there are services and people out there who can help you. So I'm just going to jump into the questions now. So thank you everyone for listening to my introduction. So I'm going to start with just getting Kylie and Deb to introduce themselves. So let's start with Kylie. What do you do, Kylie, in your role?
Oh, hi, thanks for having me. So I'm a financial counsellor with Anglicare and I specialise in the family violence area. So I work with all clients, but generally, or most of my clients at the moment are the family violence clients. I've been doing financial counselling for 5 years, but I've got a financial background and a counselling background. And I really work with clients trying to help them get back financial power and be able to move ahead in their life after whatever restrictions they've come up against.
Thanks, Kylie. And if anyone wants to find you or speak to you, how do they go about doing that?
Yeah, so there's a couple of pathways that they can do. If you just want to make some general inquiries, you can call the National Debt Helpline, which is 1800-007-007. They'll do an over-the-phone case consult with you. And then if they need to refer you on to us for more in-depth work, then they'll do a referral to us. Or you can call us direct on 9896-6322 or go to the anglicarevic.org.au website and put in an inquiry. And then we're doing over the phone appointments at the moment due to COVID, but even outside of that, we do offer phone appointments, which are really good for people that just don't want to leave the safety of their own home.
Thanks, Kylie. And how about you, Deb? So what do you do in your role?
So I am a lawyer. I've been a lawyer for approximately, it's getting close to about 18 years, and I've had a wide variety of experience in private practice, working for legal aid. I've worked for one of the unions and now working at Eastern Community Legal Centre for the last 4 years in the role as the managing lawyer of the Box Hill office. So we are a generalist legal practice, and we provide legal advice and deliver community legal education sessions to both members of the community and to professionals on a broad range of legal issues, with a focus on family law and family violence. That's one of the big areas that we see coming through our door. But we also provide clients with assistance around infringements, debt-related matters, and a number of other civil type matters. But the main focus being on family law and family violence, and those sorts of things that a lot of people will experience throughout their life.
Thanks, Deb. And I just wanted to check because I'm having a bit of trouble hearing you consistently, Deb. So just making sure that, yeah, but we'll get to that again I'll just bring it up again if I do come across that problem. So Deb, and I guess where can I find you if, how do I go about finding you if I want to get in touch with yourself?
You make contact with Eastern Community Legal Centre. You can access our details and information about the service on our website, or you can make contact with us by telephone. We've just had a new contact telephone number go live as of yesterday, which I will try and find for you. Which is 1300 325 200.
Thank you.
But I have no doubt that Rachel will post our contact details at the end of the session.
Yep. And I think, Deb, it does help if you move a bit closer to the screen.
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry, these technical issues are hard to predict.
Let me know.
Yeah. And so maybe we'll go back to Kylie then. So this is what we'll do. We'll just alternate between the two speakers. And again, to people that are listening in, if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in the Q&A box at the bottom of the webinar. It's anonymous, and if we can't answer your questions now, we will let you know. But I think it's quite important if you're here to ask any questions that you might have. So Kylie, have you seen an increase in the number of people reaching out to your service because of the pandemic?
Not really, no. We think that across Australia it's sort of a bit quiet at the moment because people are getting the other payments from Centrelink and JobKeeper and things like that. Institutions are also being a bit more flexible in putting payments on hold and leaving it until later in the year. That's when we think we're going to start getting very busy. So if people do have some debts that are on hold and things like that, it might be worth getting in touch with us now to get the ball rolling, because it's going to sort of get pretty messy and pretty busy as the rest of the year unfolds.
And for the people that are reaching out to Anglicare's financial counselling, what do they struggle with, and how are you supporting them?
We've got a whole multitude of things that people struggle with. So it could be rent, personal loans, credit cards, mortgages, payday lenders, debt collectors, even some things that are years old, debts that are just starting to raise their head again. They're coming to us to talk about them. It could be school fees, all sorts, just anything where they owe money. We try and work with the person that they owe the money to. We don't do private loans, so where they borrow money from a friend or a family member, we've got no ability to help there. But pretty much anything else, we'll give it a go and see how we can help the client to make them feel a bit more in control of their finances.
Yep. And, for the things that you can't help people with, will you be able to refer them to places that potentially could?
Yeah, definitely. So we've got a large list of organisations that might be able to give them short-term or long-term assistance, whether it's to other organisations in the area. We even do a lot of referrals to Eastern Community Legal Centre for the areas that are out of our scope. And we have contact with them plus another community legal agency that helps us out if we need to give a little bit of basic legal advice to the clients.
Thanks, Kylie. And so Deb, I guess at the Eastern Community Legal Centre, you know, have there been more people reaching out to your services because of the pandemic?
We've actually seen a reduction in people that are reaching out to us for assistance. And the numbers have been ebbing and flowing since the pandemic started, and there have been restrictions on what people are able to do. So we've noticed that during the stage 4 restrictions that the number of people reaching out to us has considerably decreased. Whereas when we were in the stage 3 restrictions and coming out of those, our numbers started to increase. So I think it really depends upon what people's circumstances are at home and about their ability to be able to find the time to reach out to make contact with the centre. With the fact that, you know, their legal issues are not a priority because they're homeschooling, or it might very well be that they're not in a safe situation to be able to pick up the phone and make the call.
And so for the people that are reaching out and that you are able to kind of get in touch with, you know, what are they struggling with, and how is Eastern Community Legal Centre supporting them?
So I think it varies from person to person as to what they are, what they're struggling with. For a lot of our older clients, it's, you know, a lot of feeling isolated. You know, we've seen a constant stream coming through the office is seeking advice on family violence and family law matters. Whereas other areas like our criminal law matters, there's been a reduction in those clients coming through because the courts aren't operating in the same way as what they otherwise would. But we're still here. We're providing advice remotely by phone. There are opportunities that if a phone appointment is not appropriate, we can discuss whether or not we have a video conference with you over Zoom like we're doing now, or even a face-to-face appointment.
Thanks, Deb. So I just want to move the conversation now to this idea of managing financial pressures and getting the help that you might need. And I think for the next part of the conversation, feel free either of you to just jump in if you think that this is something you can respond to. I'm not going to put you in the spot by saying, Kylie or Deb, you know, please answer this question. But I guess it's just an acknowledgement that many of us may have to be maybe managing on a reduced or limited income because of job loss due to the pandemic or inability to find work or other reasons. What are some general things people can do if they are finding themselves facing this financial pressure?
One of the key things is to keep those lines of communication open. That's what we say to all of our clients all the time, that getting in contact with the people that you owe the money to, whether it's the payday lender, whether it's the bank, whether it's school fees, whatever it is that the clients are struggling with, let them know that you're having trouble. And most organisations are pretty flexible. I guess we help out a lot of clients that come to us have anxiety and other conditions that make it difficult for them to then pick up the phone and have those conversations, and that's where we step in to become their advocate. And then we would, every situation's different, so we tackle it best we can to make it easy for the client.
Thanks, Kylie. And you know, like, I guess it's hard because I'm thinking about myself, you know, just picking up that phone and making that call to my bank, for example. It's, you know, sometimes it's, you know, being put on hold for a long period of time that puts me off. And sometimes it's just because I've never had that conversation before. So I think, yeah, keeping that communication open is something that doesn't come to our minds. It may not be at the front of our minds a lot, but like you're saying, it's really important to just, you know, reach out and start that conversation.
Mm.
And even if you don't know whether or not your current financial situation is a legal issue, give our office a call anyway, because even if we don't identify you as having a legal issue, we can make appropriate referrals for you to people like Kylie, who would be in a much better position to assist you.
Thanks, Deb. Yeah, I think it's interesting because, you know, as I was preparing for this webinar, you know, I went onto the Eastern Community Legal Center website, and there's so many resources there for people in different positions. I'm aware, you know, you have things that look at the things that are for people that might be in a family violence situation, but you've also got a lot of resources for people from the Deacon Student Legal Service that the Eastern Community Legal Center runs. So there's just so much on the websites that people may not have come across before. And on the flip side, I guess, if we are in a tricky position financially, what are some things we should not be doing?
Don't sign up to things. Don't agree to going on to that new phone plan. Think about the emails that you're responding to, especially if it's unsolicited, and even telephone calls for people asking you for money or providing bank details, because they may not be a legitimate organisation or person that is seeking those details. It may actually be a scam, and if it seems too good to be true, do not give out your details. Call the institution that is attempting to make contact with you. It could be something as simple as an email from your bank. Second guess it and call your bank and say, hey, I've just received this email from you. Is this correct or not? Because once you hand over money to somebody and it appears that it's not legitimate, you may not get that money back. In fact, people don't get that money back. It's generally, it's lost forever. And for many people at this point in time, where you may have lost your job, or one person in your household has lost your job, losing that money may have a significant impact upon the rest of your life for the time being.
And Kylie, do you have anything to add to that? What are some things people should not be doing if they're in a tricky financial position?
Also acknowledging the debt. So just gather the information. Don't agree that it's your debt necessarily up front. Just say, I'll take that information, and then they can give us a call and we can dig into it a bit deeper. That way we can investigate whether it is their debt and what the options are. And don't agree to payment plans either at the moment, even if it is with your gas and utilities and things like that, that if you're really struggling, they might say to you, you need to pay $100 a fortnight. They can't make you pay $100 a fortnight. So give us a call to do some mediation work with them.
That's really good. That's a really good point as well. And so, you know, I think, you know, we're realizing from the COVID-19 stuff that, you know, some people are eligible for government supports and some people are not. So what if a person's in a position where they're not sure of the support that they're entitled to or eligible for, and if they are financially affected by the pandemic, what advice would you have for these people?
Again, they can give us a call. We can talk through their situation. So we deal with both Australian and non-Australian residents. So this, the grants and things like that that are available it's not blanket that everybody gets the same things. So give us a call and we can work out what's available for them. The same with Centrelink. There are different payments available for everybody. So we can find out what they might qualify for and point them in the right direction to get support if they're having trouble as well getting Centrelink benefits.
And I guess, you know, either of you, do you offer any translation services as well as part of the as part of your service?
Definitely, we do over the phone, and when we have face-to-face appointments, we have face-to-face interpreters come into the office. But I have seen an increase lately of the interpreter service over the phone, so having lots more clients come through for that.
We're the same. If a person contacts us and says that they require an interpreter, we can arrange an interpreter for them at no cost to the client, even if it's just for that intake process. We also have a number of our publications and information on our website in other languages, and you can actually translate our website into other languages as well.
Mm.
That's good to know, Deb. That's and so how would you translate? It's okay if you can't answer this question. How would you translate the website into other languages?
There is a particular button that you press on the website that shows that brings down the languages that it can be translated into.
Okay, so I guess it should be pretty easy for someone that's navigating the website to do that.
Yeah, I'll just clarify and let you know.
That's all right. Sorry to put you on.
Yeah, so no, at the top of the website there is a link that says translate.
Great, that's really clear. Thank you for that. So I just want to talk through a few scenarios that potentially people might be thinking about or that might be worried about as a result of the financial pressures or the financial difficulties that they're facing. And I guess what we're wanting to know is what a financial counselor or a community legal center can do if a person is in these scenarios. So what if I'm worried about not being able to pay my rent or my mortgage? What can I do? Or what can a financial counselor or community legal center do for me?
From a financial counselling perspective, they're sort of two different paths. So if it's the mortgage, we can talk to the lender about what they can do with their mortgage. And again, it depends on what happened pre-COVID, what's happening now, what might happen in the future. So again, individual circumstances, and it depends on the lender as well. And then with regards to rent, we personally don't have a lot that we can assist with, but we can try and do some mediation with the person that they're paying their rent to see if they can reduce it and then pay a bit later. We can talk to them about what services are available that can help out with rent or helping out with rental payments, talking to them about going to, there's some money that they can get from the government to help go towards some of the rent as well. So there's lots of different paths that we can go down.
Thanks, Kylie.
So from a legal perspective, we can talk to you about what your rights and responsibilities are under the terms of the loan. We're unlikely to get involved in renegotiating your loan or the amount of money that you pay on your rent. The main lesson I think from this is if that you are struggling and you are receiving those notices that you're behind in your rent and in your mortgage, is to reach out and get some assistance early, because once court proceedings start, we are we're very limited in the options that you've got moving forward, especially if a court has made a decision about whether or not you owe that debt or not.
Thanks, Deb. And I think in terms of where someone that's renting can go to look for more information, I think Tenants Victoria is a good place to start. Would you say, Deb?
Yeah, they're a great place to start. There's lots of information on their website in relation to the rights and responsibilities of landlords during this COVID period, and in particular around the negotiations you can have about a reduction in your rent.
Thank you for that. And so what if I'm worried about not being able to pay my utility bills and the thought of losing my utility connections? What can I do, and what can a financial counselor or a community legal center do for me in this scenario?
The good thing with utilities is that they can't just cut you off. If you're in financial hardship or if you're making payments and have an agreed payment plan, so it could be $100 a fortnight, it could be $20 a fortnight, whatever arrangement we've come to, as long as the clients are sticking to that, they're not to be cut off. So the utilities are pretty good nowadays, and they're just in the process of bringing in some new rules and regulations at the moment. and I think they're due to kick in around October to protect the clients more, the customers. So the utilities are pretty good to deal with. There's also government grants available for people that they might be eligible based on their circumstances to get a lump sum every 2 years that goes towards their bills as well. And that's the gas, the electricity and the water. And it also includes those people that are non-mains gassed.
What does that mean, Kylie, non-mains gas?
So some people have gas bottles delivered to supply their gas to their house, or I think if you're using a wood fire as well as your main source of heating and you're having to pay a lot of money for wood to be delivered, you can claim some of this utility relief grant as well.
Thanks for that. It might only be me that doesn't know that, but it's
no, that's okay.
And Deb, so from I guess a legal point of view, what if someone's worried about not being able to pay bills and losing utility connections?
I suppose the main thing, it's the same if you're struggling with your mortgage or with your rent. Reach out and get assistance early. Don't wait until you start getting the letters from the debt collectors. But if you do get a letter from a debt collector, it's going to be really important that you either seek legal advice as soon as you receive that, or make contact with the likes of Kylie to get some assistance around being able to negotiate payments. See whether or not they'll be able to, there are circumstances whereby you might be able to make application for a waiver of the amount of money that you owe, but just don't leave it till the last minute when you're being served with court documents.
Thanks for that, Deb. And I guess like what you're saying, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, and I think in many cases people might, and I think that that's absolutely normal. It's a normal human reaction, but when you can, it's just to not keep your head down in the sand and just to kind of start gathering information, like you said a bit earlier, Kylie, and just reaching out to as many places as you can to see where you can get the appropriate help that you need. So I guess, what about people that are feeling overwhelmed or worried about debt? And what if, they're being harassed by debt collectors? In that case, what can a financial counselor or community legal center do for these people?
So debt collectors actually can't harass people. They have a code of conduct. You can make a complaint about a debt collector if they are unnecessarily harassing you. But I think it's probably at the point whereby you need to make a phone call to us at Eastern Community Legal Centre to get some legal advice around what your options are, or even for a referral through a financial counsellor. And we can normally act as a circuit breaker and provide you with some tips and tricks on how to manage the debt collector. One of the things that I always say to our intake team when they've got somebody on the phone that is being harassed by a debt collector is to tell them, I'm seeking legal advice and will be in contact with you once I've seen that advice.
Can you just repeat that the last two sentences, Deb? I think those are really key words that people could use. I think it was just a bit choppy there.
So don't hesitate to tell debt collectors that you're seeking legal advice and that you'll be in contact with them once you've received that advice.
Thank you.
And if you do tell them that, it's really important that you do make contact with a legal service.
And financial counselling is the same. Those two sentences are a key thing that we say. Get in contact with the debt collector and say that you're going to be speaking to a financial counsellor. Like we sort of give them some conversation points when they ring up for intake, because then the debt collectors will generally pop them on hold, not bother them for a while, and that's where we'll step in and do some advocacy work to see what we can work out with the debts, if the debt's due, how much it is that we actually need to pay, if we can come up with payment arrangements, if we can get it reduced a little bit. Lots of options with the debt collectors. And sometimes it can get recalled back to the bank or the originating credit supplier, and we've got a bit more flexibility with it as well in regards to government grants and things like that. But it's key to keep in contact with them, but get in contact with Eastern Community Legal Centre or us to discuss it a bit further and go from there.
Yeah, and so thank you for that, Kylie. And so for someone that's, feeling overwhelmed, they may not be, they may not be harassed by debt collectors, but they're just feeling overwhelmed about their debt. What can you do, Kylie, if they decide to give you a call?
Yeah, so we get a lot of clients coming through going, I've got all these debts, I just can't deal with them, I don't know what to do. And then they might not have heard from a debt collector yet, but they know that they've got it all sitting there. So that's where they'll come to us and sign us on as an authority to help them. And then we'll be the mediator between the two of them, looking at what they owe, whether it is due, what we can pay, and working it out so that long term they're going to be in that better financial position. So we take on the stress and anxiety so that they can be looking at something else that's going on in their life to try and make things better.
Thanks for that. And that's really helpful to know, because I guess, it is easy to feel like you're all alone in this situation. No one is there, especially when you've tried to reach out to a few people. But, it's good to know that financial counselling does help take on that role. Yeah. I guess, so just wanting to kind of have a few take homes for people that are listening in. What is your main advice to people that might be financially affected or experiencing financial hardship as a result of COVID-19? What's your main advice to people?
Get the courage to pick up the phone or send an email and, to us, to a financial counsellor, to the National Debt Helpline, and, get some help.
Yep, definitely. Pick up the phone. Again, your initial conversation, it can be, you don't need to give us too much information, just telling us about the debts, and then we'll talk to you about whether we can help you or not, or if we can't help you, we would then give you the referral sources. We don't just leave you hanging. As I said earlier, we do a lot of referrals to Eastern Community Legal Centre, and we know lots of other organisations in the area. So financial counselling is helping out with the debt management. We don't have funds to pay the bills for clients, but we can refer them to emergency relief areas, emergency relief organisations within the area, who might be able to give them some grocery vouchers or things like that to get them through the tougher times. And then we're going to help them longer term to sort out their bills so that they can manage it better.
Thanks for that. And I guess, like the council also has a few good links to, emergency food relief if you do need, that kind of support as well. I think normally councils would have quite a good list of the community services that are available in your area. So that's another area you could look to for support.
Yeah.
And if you're looking for support for women, the Women's Information and Referral Exchange, or the WIRE, is also a good place to look for if you're looking specifically for support for women.
Yeah.
So I just want to move on to, I guess, financial abuse. We know it's a form of domestic and family violence, and it can include many things. In a recent study done by the Commonwealth Bank on community attitudes towards financial abuse, they found that almost 40% of the adult population have experienced or know someone who has experienced financial abuse. And I don't think it's something that is very well understood by the community as well. So what is financial abuse?
Well, from a legal perspective, it is a form of family violence, and it is something that is covered in the definition of family violence in the under the legislation. So it is a way of another person being able to exert power and control over you. And, exerting power and control is part of family violence. So what does financial abuse look like? It could be, things for, signing you up for loans that you don't necessarily agree to. And it could be without your knowledge. Not allowing you to have a bank account, monitoring your spending habits. So being really critical about the credit card bill that comes in and getting you to justify what you've spent the money on. It could also be that you are given limited funds for day-to-day essentials. So you need to be, especially if you're not working yourself, not allowing you to have your own bank account, and even things like if you're purchasing a home, not including you on the certificate of title for those big ticket purchases, and saying to you that no, it's not necessary. You don't need to worry about that. But in reality, some of those key factors are signs that you might be experiencing financial abuse, and you can get assistance.
Thanks for that, Deb. That's a lot of, very clear examples of how, this form of abuse can take place. Is there anything you wanted to add, Kylie, on what financial abuse is? Or Deb pretty much covered quite
Deb's done a fantastic explanation of it. And again, if you've got the debts, just reach out and talk to us about them to see what can be done with them. There are lots of options, and most organisations have got a family violence policy now as well. So once we explain the situation to them, they are pretty flexible in the management of these debts.
And I suppose it's important to remember too that it doesn't matter how old you are. Family violence or financial abuse can occur at any age, and we see it in our centre through women experiencing family violence, and now we're seeing an increase in older people experiencing financial abuse.
Thank you. And I guess both of you have already touched on this, but what should a person do if they suspect that either they are or someone they know is in a financially abusive relationship? And I guess, for me, I know that one of the numbers I would call is 1-800-RESPECT, just to have a conversation with someone who is trained to respond to people who might be experiencing family violence. But what are some things that you would encourage people to do if they're suspecting that they are in a financially abusive relationship, or that they know someone who is?
I think if you know somebody that's in a financially abusive relationship, we better open up some dialogue, have a conversation with them, and point out to them that the behaviour that they are experiencing, could be family violence, and encourage them to reach out and get help. Whether or not be, as you said, calling 1-800-RESPECT and having an initial conversation. It's really important that people are able to feel that they can pick up the phone to get some advice and assistance around their circumstances.
Thank you.
Yeah. And they are also welcome to give us a call as well to talk about it. And there's also, if they're in the Eastern area, they can ring EDVOS and have a chat with them about their situation.
Yeah. And they can most certainly give us a call as well to find out what their legal rights are. It's important that a person understands what their legal rights are. And we can provide advice in relation to getting assistance for a family violence intervention order if it's necessary, providing you with advice around what your rights are if a relationship was to break down. Especially a lot of women come to us and say, well, we're married, but I don't work. I've stayed at home and I've looked after the kids. That's all I've done. So the court takes into account non-financial contributions as well as financial contributions. And it's important to remember that those non-financial contributions are treated equally in the courts as what financial contributions are. So just because you aren't the breadwinner doesn't mean that you won't be entitled to part of a property settlement. So it's important that you get some legal advice in relation to that. a legal service can also assist you with what we call sexually transmitted debt. So debts whereby your partner they're the ones that have incurred the debts in your name. And Women's Legal Service run a great program in relation to women that are experiencing that sexually transmitted debt.
Thanks, Deb. That's a lot of there's a few things that you've mentioned that are really good for people to know, and I think that's the first time I've heard that term as well, on sexually transmitted debt. So I think it's often that people don't really recognize that what's happening in their situation is not okay, and so I think it's quite important for people to be able to name it at some point, but also we recognize that safety is really important. So it's really as well about where a person is and whether that person is ready or in a safe position to kind of reach out and get help. Is there anything that is there anything that the women listening in can do to protect themselves from financial abuse? Are there any points either of you could share about protecting yourself from being financially abused?
I think it's hard for women when they're in the situation because they are feeling vulnerable. But as Deborah mentioned earlier, having a bank account in your own name so that you can put a little bit of money in there, that's if you can have that sitting there to put away some funds if you do need to prepare to be leaving the house. But that's something that I know EdVos work with clients to help them prepare for that financial independence and protecting themselves within that financial abuse section.
I think it's also important to understand what your rights and responsibilities are financially as well. So what does it mean to have a loan in my name? What am I going to be responsible for? Trying to develop some ways in which to push back with your partner, trying to put that new mobile telephone into your name. So putting some mechanisms in place to try and protect yourself. And as Kylie said, if you're experiencing it, it is very challenging in which to be able to do some of those things. So the first port of call might be to reach out to an organisation like EdVos to help you safety plan and work out a way in which you can implement some of these things.
Thanks for that. And I think we're quite close to wrapping up. We've had a good 45 minutes of conversation around getting help, but any final thoughts for people that might be struggling financially as a result of the COVID pandemic, either of you?
Don't feel embarrassed about the situation that you're in. Don't feel shame. Just pick up the phone and give us a call because it's happening to more people than people think. Yeah. Hundreds and hundreds of calls that we get through. We might not see every one of them because we might be able to give them guidance or refer them onto organisations, but give us a call and have a chat about the situation that you're in to see how we can help you or what other organisations are out there to help you as well.
And this can happen to anybody. It doesn't matter what background you're from, whether or not you have a lot of money, or whether or not It could happen to any of us that are sitting here today, and it could be something as simple as a member of your household losing their job, and that could result in everything unraveling for you. So it doesn't discriminate against age and background, but reach out and try and reach out and get help. Our service at Eastern Community Legal Centre, we are a non-judgmental service, and we have a no wrong door policy. So it doesn't matter if you call us and we can't help you. We will ensure that you are provided with appropriate referrals to a service that may be able to assist.
Yeah, totally agree.
Great. Thank you both so much for having that conversation. I feel like, we've touched on a few things that generally people might find useful, but I'm just curious to know if we've had any questions from people listening in, Annette?
Hi everybody. No, I think you've both been exceptionally clear. Thank you so much, Deborah and Kylie. We haven't had any questions, and I've been busy putting lots of bits of information into the chat, but I think Rachel's also going to provide some more information as well.
Thanks so much, Annette. So what we'll do is I'll be sharing right now just a PowerPoint containing contact information for Anglicare, which is where Kylie is based, and Eastern Community Legal Center, which is where Deborah is based. And we'll also be sending out a bit of information on support services and support that you can get if you are experiencing financial difficulty. We'll be sending these out to people that have registered for our session. So just give me a second to share these. Can everyone see my screen? Yes?
Yep.
So if you're looking to reach out to the Eastern Community Legal Center, it's a multidisciplinary community legal service that provides free and confidential advice and assistance to people who live, work, or study in Melbourne's East. And that's their contact information there. And if you're looking to reach out to Anglicare for financial counselling, they work with clients in the council areas of Manningham, Whitehorse, Monash, and Burundara. You can phone this number here, 9896-6322, and ask for the financial counselling intake worker, or you can also email them. Alternatively, you can call the National Debt Helpline, and I think the number is pretty easy to remember, 1-800-7777 for an initial phone consultation. So thank you all so much, and I hope you have a good day. And please, if you think that you know someone that might find this information useful, please pass it on and feel free to share the recording with them. Thank you. See ya.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.